Greetings, astronomy students. This is Mr. Zielinski. We're going to take you through the summer sky, getting you introduced to some of the constellations. I hope to eventually show you in the planetarium, just to get a little head start if we can. So let's go ahead and get going here. First, I'll introduce you to the sky and show you that we are set for June 21st at 1 a.m. Now, this is equivalent to midnight due to daylight saving. So basically, we're on the first day, the very first minute of summer. Summer begins on June 21st, and of course the day begins at midnight, so this is the first day of summer, and this is where we learn all of our constellationals, our seasonals. Constellations is based on the first moment of the season. All right, so we have defined that this is the summer sky. Now, you will eventually learn that you can quickly tell what season is in the sky based on the constellations you see, and you really only need 5 constellations to tell you. These are what we call the iconic constellations, the icon constellations. These are the constellations that if you find it, if you see it in the sky, it tells you the information about what season is coming, going, or that's here. And so the icon constellation for summer, the constellation that tells us it's summertime, is the constellation of Scorpius, the Scorpion. Now, Scorpius, to find him in the sky is quite simple. Well, in Tulsa it's a little harder because it's a little low, but shape-wise it's quite easy. You just want to look for that hook shape down here, right here on the bottom there. It is a Scorpius. This is pretty easy to see a Scorpius when you think about it. That hook part is the poisonous or venomous stinger of the scorpion. You have the body of the scorpion, and then out front are its pinchers or claws. If I turn off the image there, you can again see the arc of stars right there and in front. So when we look in the sky and you see Scorpius, you know summer is coming, going, or it's here. That is the icon for the summer. Now, to introduce to you the other icons, just as a brief introduction, we'll again go over these in more details later. But to introduce to you the fall iconic constellation is, of course, Pegasus. Then we have winter is the famous Orion. In the spring, we have Leo. And oddly enough, in our way of thinking, at least for astronomy is concerned, North is sort of its own season. You'll learn why later. And in the north, our 5th iconic constellation is the Big Dipper, which you'll see is weird for 2 reasons. But either way, if by the end of this constellational unit, if you only know Scorpius, Pegasus, Orion, Leo, and the Big Dipper, then you still have enough to work with to do a lot in the sky with our labs. That's how iconic they are. It'll be great. It's going to be helpful to know all the constellations we learn. But if you only leave knowing those 5, you'll do very, very well in the labs because you'll be recognizing seasons and time there. All right. So Scorpius, very, very important. Now, Scorpius is one of our zodiac constellations. So if you didn't know, back in the ancient days, about 3,000 years ago, the astrologers would look up in the sky and assign people their zodiac, a constellation that was assigned to you when you were born based on your birthday. So if you didn't know yours, to go ahead and take a look at the list, find your birth date, and simply look to its left, and that is the constellation that has been assigned to you. We call these 12 constellations the zodiac constellations. Now, Scorpius is on the list, Scorpio right there. So if you were born between October 24th and November 22nd, then you are a Scorpio, and this Scorpion is your constellation. We are going to learn 2 other ones in this sky, and that is going to be Sagittarius and Libras. So September 23rd, October 23rd, and November 23rd, December 22nd. If you have those birthdays, then we're going to be talking about your zodiac constellation today. All the other 9 we'll get to as we continue through the seasons. Now we want to make sure you can find Scorpius without the line's help. So let's make sure you can kind of connect these stars mentally in your own mind there, forming that long, large hook right there, the famous venomous stinger right here on the bottom. Body goes to here, and this 3 stars out in the line here are the pinchers of the scorpion. So make sure you can recognize that without the help of the lines. And that is the constellation of Scorpius. Now, Scorpius, if you haven't already noticed, has a very bright star right there in the position where would be about, I guess we'll call it the thorax or the chest of the bug. And that's perfect because this star right there is the heart of the scorpion. You'll even notice it's red. And that's one of the reasons we learned this star. This is the star Antares. So Antares is the reasons we learn some stars in this class is because of one, they're either really bright and thus easy to find, so you should know the name of them, or two, if they're not really bright and we still learn them, it's because of some other characteristic. And that is the case for this one. Antares is both bright, but it's also unique because it's a red supergiant star. This star is dying, and so we can study Antares and see what it's like when stars start to end their life near the end of the cycle. So Antares, very popular star. It is the heart of the scorpion. From Scorpius, let's go ahead now and connect that to Sagittarius. So all those Sagittarians listening to me, here is your constellation. So here we are starting at Scorpius. We go from the tail of Scorpius, simply go to the left, and you'll run into this little bundle of stars here, right in this area, and that is the constellation of Sagittarius. All right, so Scorpius and Sagittarius are right next to each other in the sky. Now, Sagittarius is an archer, and to be more precise, it's a centaur archer. So it's half horse, half human. Now, the most important stars, you'll notice, are in the bow part of it, which is why we typically just say Sagittarius the archer, because the bright stars represent the bow. A lot of the centaur you can see back here is all in these dim stars we don't really see very easily. So we focus really on the bright part of the bow, and that's what makes Sagittarius the archer. Now, even though its official name is Sagittarius the archer, you will very frequently hear this called the teapot. Because if I add these two lines right here, you'll notice that this little section right in here can very much easily be seen as a teapot. Spout here, lid there, handle here, and the pot, of course, in the middle. And so you'll hear this very frequently be called the teapot. Getting rid of the lines, you might even see it easier, more easily, I guess. Here you got 3 stars here as the spout. There's the 3 for the lid, 4 for the handle, and of course the pot is in the center. So this little cluster of stars, the teapot, or Sagittarius, the archer. Now, you will notice that there is a haze of light drifting from the southern horizon and kind of going vertically between Scorpius and Sagittarius. Well, that haze of light, I'm sure, is no surprise to you, is our Milky Way galaxy. It's the galaxy we live in. We're sort of in this galaxy and looking out through the haze. So when you look at the haze of the Milky Way galaxy, you're seeing just the blending of billions of distant stars. But why does it seem to be, I guess we'll say, brighter, or what seems to be bulged more in this area than it does when you drift away from that area, say up here? This seems a little darker and not as wide as it does here. Well, that's because Sagittarius and Scorpius are both leading us towards the center of the Milky Way galaxy. That's one of the reasons why Scorpius and Sagittarius are super popular in the astronomy world, because it leads us to the center of the galaxy. So there's a supermassive black hole in the center of our galaxy. It is in that direction. And so now you can be able to find it because you know how to find Scorpius and Sagittarius. We've taken care of the 2 zodiacs of Scorpius and Sagittarius. Let's go ahead and take care of our third and final zodiac of this guy, and that is Libra. Libra is a small little diamond-shaped constellation out in front of Scorpius here. If your birthday is between September 23rd and October 23rd, then this is your zodiac constellation. Now, Libra is pretty cool here. It's actually the only non-living zodiac. What I mean by that is every other zodiac constellation is an animal, whether it's human or scorpion or fish. This isn't. Libra is the only non-living one. It's actually a scientific instrument, the balance or the scale. And so very unique Libras are, and the fact that they're usually well balanced, as the astrologer would say. But to find Libra in the sky, really what you want to look for is a diamond. So the planetarium traces it out sort of in this triangle and then two kind of strings coming down. Really, when you look for the stars, just look for a diamond. Go to Scorpius, our iconic constellation. We sort of base everything off of him. Go from Scorpius, go out in front. Find these two bright stars of Libra, and then just go inwards towards Scorpius, and you find this diamond of 4 stars. Those 4 stars are the 4 stars of Libra. Zodiac constellations are out of the way. We have Scorpius, Sagittarius, and Libra. Well, now let's travel up the Milky Way from the tail of Scorpius. And as we travel, we'll run into 3 very bright stars up here. 1, 2, and 3. And these 3 bright stars form the very popular asterism of the summer triangle. Now you'll notice I called this an asterism, not a constellation. Okay, asterisms we're gonna be introducing you many more, but asterisms are false constellations. They're sets of stars or sets of objects that we use like we use constellations, but they're not officially part of the list of 88. So we have a list of 88 constellations that are official. The summer triangle, well, we treat it like a constellation, but it's not officially one. So that's why we call it an asterism. This will not be the first that you'll learn. But a summer triangle is definitely a popular one among astronomers. It's a very easy shape to find in the sky. I mean, it's a triangle, pretty simple. And these 3 stars that make it up are very bright, which is why you are also responsible for them. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. Vega, Deneb, and Altair. Vega, Deneb, and Altair, the 3 stars of the summer triangle. Vega being the brightest of the 3, and actually the brightest of the entire summer sky. So Vega is a very popular star. Now Vega is all 3 of these are part of their own constellation. So together they make up the summer triangle, but individually they're part of their own constellation. Vega is part of the constellation Lyra the Harp. Now Lyra is super small. You can't even see it behind the label. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, and you'll notice that below Vega is a small little trapezoid. That represents the harp of Lyra there. So in the sky, it's a tiny little trapezoid that happens to be under the very bright star. And it is the harp. Now it's an ancient harp, of course, because all these things are coming from a long time ago. So it doesn't look like the harps of today. But Lyra the harp is the star that's connected to the star, is the constellation connected to the star Vega. Moving from Vega, we'll move over now to the next star in our triangle, and that is the star Deneb. Deneb is the tail of Cygnus the Swan. Now, Cygnus the Swan should be pretty easy to see a swan here. I think it's one of the easier ones. Again, Deneb is the tail, so follow this line of stars right here till you get to the head of the swan here. Remember, swans have pretty long necks. So here's the long neck, this is the body, and that'd be the tail. And of course, the wings would come off from either side. So if you picture a swan flying through the air, you can see it matches pretty well with the stars. Cygnus is a pretty easy one to find. Now, Deneb, we already said, represents the tail. But there is another star you're responsible for that actually represents the head of the swan right there. And this is the star named Albireo. Now, Albireo is not a bright star. I mean, Deneb, you probably figured out we're learning that because it's bright and part of the summer triangle. But Albireo is not horribly bright. There must be another reason we're learning it. Let me show you why. Albireo is very cool. This is one of the ones I'm hoping to show you when we meet together on the roof on one of our astronomy class nighttime star parties. I'm going to be really excited to show you this. As you take a telescope to Albireo, you'll notice that it's not a single star, rather a binary star. What that means is it's 2 stars orbiting around each other. And what's even more cool about Albireo is that one star is a red star and the other star is a blue star. So with one point of the telescope, you can get an example of both a cold red star and a hot blue star in the same spot. Really cool to see. Again, I hope we have the chance to be able to show you before the end of the semester. With Vega and Deneb out of the way, let's go ahead and complete our summer triangle and introduce you guys to Altair. Altair is the eye of Aquila the eagle. So Altair is the eye of Aquila the eagle. Now I'm going to show you again in the planetarium when we're in there, but I'm going to admit to you now, I don't like the way the planetarium traces this one out or draws the image. Let me explain. So if I turn off the label and you take a look at Aquila, you're going to look at this shape and think, well, okay, if that's an eagle, then this is a wing, and this is the head maybe? And if it's reversed, if this is supposed to be the eye, well, that means this is the head. This is more of a stingray, really, right? Not more than an eagle. But then when you see the image, it's even more weird because then you got a boy in the picture with this eagle flying above. And don't get me wrong, I know the story that the planetarium or the mythology that the planetarium is referring to. I just don't like this interpretation of this constellation. So I'm going to introduce to you the way I learned it and the way I prefer it, just because I think it matches better with a cooler story. Let me show you. So if we all remember that Altair is the eye of Aquila the eagle, and then go to one star up from that and then make that the beak. Okay, so then these two stars together are the head of the eagle. Follow then back down and around to make wings and a body, and then under for talons, like this. So if you trace Aquila this way, now you might be thinking that still doesn't look like an eagle. Well, give me a second, I'll show you how. Again, Altair's the eye, beak, body, wing, and then underneath here are the talons or the legs or the claws of the eagle. Now, if you picture the eagle this way, thinking of the eagle swooping down on a river or a pond to pick some fish out of the water, then you can see the shape works really well. Here's the eye and beak, goes back to the wings, and then goes under for the talons. All right, so it works very, very well this way. All right, and the cooler part that I like this story for is look where the talons end up. The talons end up in the Milky Way, which means the Milky Way in the mythology represents the river that the eagle is swooping down on. Really love this story. It's one of my favorite stories, mythological stories that connects with the astronomy. Just adore this one. And that's why I prefer to trace out Aquila in this way. So if I show it to you one more time, again, Altair is the eye, there's the beak. We go down around for the wings and the body, and then down and around here for the talons. Now for something very unique. Let's go back down here to Scorpius, because that's where we always start. We always start with the icon constellation and base everything off of it. So go to the tail and go up. And when you go up from the tail, you're going to run into this large oval of stars. Now this is a constellation that should be way more popular than it is. This is the constellation named Fufukus. Now, I know nobody's likely have heard of this constellation Fufukus before, but it should be very, very popular. First off, let's just introduce to the fact that he is the serpent handler. Basically, he's the ancient animal control. If we brought Fufukus to present day, he'd probably be what you would be called if you found a snake or a rodent of some sort in your house. You'd call Fufukus. So back then, kind of think of him as in that role. But what makes Fufukus way more important and why he should be on our minds a little bit more than he is that Fufukus is our 13th zodiac. Now earlier in this presentation I showed you this list of 12 zodiac constellations, and I explained that if you were born in where you find your date of your birth, you look over and these are the constellations assigned to you. Well, you were assigned this constellation for a reason. And so in order for you to understand why Fufukus is the 13th zodiac, I need you to understand why do we have zodiacs to begin with. So the reasons, so in order to see that, we need to go to space for a second here. So here's Earth, and the green circle represents its orbit. And of course the sun is right there. all the constellations are outlined in blue. And just remember, those are stars that are billions and billions and billions and billions of miles away. So those stars are way, 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 way out there. They're the background of the dance between the Earth and the Sun. So if I let this go in motion, we know that the Earth spins, but we should also know that the Earth orbits while spinning. And because of that, as the Earth orbits, takes its little green path around the Sun, you'll notice that the Sun appears to be moving through the stars. So this white line is showing it was here and it's now moved to here, to here, to here, to here. You can see all the constellations slowly drift behind the Sun as the Earth orbits. Well, what if we clarified this and maybe only highlighted the constellations that the Sun actually goes through? We do that. So now we're only looking at constellations that the Sun actually touches at some point or is seen in front of. And you'll notice that these are the zodiac. That's why they became the zodiac constellations. The Sun spends some amount of time in those constellations. So with that, what does this mean to us? Well, what about Fufukus, right? Well, here is the view of space. Now we're back on Earth, sorry. We're back on Earth looking up at the sky. You see Scorpius, Sagittarius, there's Libra. This you'll learn later, but there's Virgo, Capricornus, and Aquarius. And so these are the zodiac constellations seen in the sky. Now this line is called the ecliptic. This is, if the Sun could trace a line across the sky as it moved throughout the year, it would trace this line. And the cool part is we know how fast Earth orbits. We know exactly where the Sun will be on any date. So this date right here, for example, this is where the Sun will be on January 1st. Here's where the Sun will be on February 1st. So it's marked that we know exactly where the Sun will be. So if you haven't yet noticed, we have a section right here where the Sun isn't in any of the 12 listed zodiac constellations. And that's because there shouldn't be 12. There should be 13. The Sun actually spends a period of time in the constellation Fufukus. And yet, there's only 12 official zodiac constellations. Now, the reason for this is back then, back in the day, 13, and even I guess a little bit today, 13 is considered unlucky or unholy. And so back then, 13 was so unholy that they said, no, we can't have 13 zodiacs, let's make 12. And so they gave up Fufukus and gave those dates to Scorpius. However, if you look astronomically, this is what the zodiac's list should look like. All right, so on the left here is the old dates. This is what it used to be 2,000, 3,000 years ago. These are what it's now updated to be. So these are the dates that the Sun spends in each of the constellations. And you can see Scorpius is now only 6 days. It only spends 6 days in Scorpius and now spends the rest of it in Fufukus. So, Fufukus, the unknown 13th zodiac, or very not well known 13th zodiac. Very cool constellation though. Simply go to Scorpius, go up from the tail, and find the very large oval. Last but not least, we have one more constellation for the summertime. Let's go back to Scorpius because we always start with the icon constellation. From Scorpius, go from the tail, go up. That takes us to Fufukus, but go up one more time. And that's going to lead you to this 6-starred, I'm going to call it an hourglass. Notice how it's thick up top, kind of thins out here, and gets thick again on the bottom. So it's a slight hourglass figure there. This is probably the most famous figure in all of mythology, and is Hercules, the mighty titan of mythology. He is actually upside down in our sky. You will notice that this is not you'll notice this several times in our learnings. That several constellations are upside down, but Hercules nonetheless is. But you can see as he's traced out, you can see an hourglass shape pretty easily here. Very thick here on the bottom, thicker up top, and then just a little thin area in the middle. So an easy way to remember Hercules is the fact that it's an hourglass shape. Hercules even makes maybe an H if you want to think of it that way. So just the letter H sort of helps there to find Hercules. Let me turn off the lines. So let's make sure we can still find him. Again, from Scorpius up through Fufukus, there is sort of the hourglass shape right there, the constellation of Hercules. And with that, that is all the constellations you are responsible for in the summer. Let's go over all of them one more time. Scorpius, of course, the iconic constellation for the summer, and a zodiac. Next to it is Sagittarius, another zodiac. Next to it, a Libra, another zodiac. And above it, Fufukus, the 13th zodiac in our sky. Going back to Scorpius, follow the tail up the Milky Way. That takes you to the trio of constellations Lyra, Cygnus, and Aquila, all three part of the asterism of the summer triangle. And then, of course, up from Scorpius through Fufukus takes you to the constellation of Hercules. All the stars you're responsible for, one lies in Scorpius here, Antares, the heart of the scorpion. The three stars of the summer triangle, Vega, Deneb, and Altair. Vega, Deneb, and Altair. And then, of course, the head of the swan and the cool dual-colored binary star system of Albireo. And the only asterism in this sky is the summer triangle. Vega, Deneb, and Altair making the summer triangle. So altogether, this is the summer sky that you're responsible for. I can't wait to be able to show you this in the real planetarium so you guys start seeing its relationship in the sky. But hopefully this quick little overview will make it go a little bit better when we finally get to meet in person. I would like to show you current events, if you will. There is one part of this I definitely want to be able to show you. And that is the fact that we have 2 planets out. So if you have been wanting to stargaze, well, now you have something to look for. So let me show you the things to look for. So this sky that I'm showing you right here, it is Tulsa, and we're set for this Wednesday. So I'm recording this on a Wednesday. And so if you happen to be watching it the day I upload it and record it, then all this would be perfectly accurate. However, if you watch it a little bit later, I'll tell you what changes you have to make. Don't worry, it's not that many. But we are looking at 9 p.m., so this is just slightly after sunset. So if you go out on our beautiful Tulsa evening at sunset, hopefully you recognize immediately here in the south is the constellation Scorpius. And if you're going out on Wednesday, it'll be under the moon. So the moon will be out on Wednesday. You look down, you find yourself Scorpius. Now, if you're not looking this on Wednesday, the moon is what's going to change. So for example, let's say you go out not on Wednesday to view, but you go out on Thursday, or Friday, or Saturday, or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You can see the moon is moving about 15 degrees a day. And so because the moon orbits the Earth, it moves faster than all the other things in the sky. And so if you're not viewing this on Wednesday, the only real change you have to anything I'm saying is the moon. Notice how as I go through the days, the stars and other dots in the sky really don't move much. They move about 1 degree versus the 13 that the moon moves. So on Wednesday, the moon will be right above Scorpius. Any other day, you might have to look somewhere else. However, here's Scorpius. You guys can recognize him. Libra will be out front. That should be visible. Sagittarius behind. But right here's where it gets fun then. Right after Sagittarius, you'll see 2 bright dots next to each other. One of which is super bright. It's probably going to draw your eye regardless, and that is Jupiter. I'm not going to lie, besides the moon, Jupiter is going to be the next brightest thing in the sky. It'll likely catch your eye even without the help of Sagittarius, but it is next to Sagittarius, and Jupiter is amazing. As I zoom into Jupiter here, I'm hoping that before the semester lets out, we're able to meet together on the roof for our stargaze party, and I'll get the telescopes out and we will look at Jupiter in person and take a look. Yes, when we look at a telescope, you can see these stripes on the planet. If the red spot is towards us and it's a good night, you can definitely see that. But really the coolest part of Jupiter are its moons. These 4 dots here to the left side of Jupiter are 4 of its large moons that are actually visible in the telescope. It's really cool to see moons around another planet. So hopefully we get a chance to view that in the sky. So that bright dot to the left of the moon on Wednesday will be Jupiter, but if you go even a little further, that dot right there is another planet, and that is the planet of Saturn. And that is why I'm hoping that we do get on this the roof this semester, because it's a great year that both of our coolest planets, Jupiter and Saturn, are together in the sky. As we zoom in on Saturn, I'll just let you know and really encourage you to come to the stargaze if we end up having it, because you can see the rings of Saturn from Earth and from our telescopes at the planetarium. Really cool. Highly recommend it. Oh, it's amazing. If you've never seen Saturn in a telescope, you are missing out, because it is very, very cool. But with that, again, this is the evening sky as of Wednesday. So here is Scorpius. Look for that. Sagittarius, the moon, Jupiter, Saturn. Oh, and of course, the summer triangle. That will be bright enough in Tulsa to see. Look for Vega, Deneb, and Altair. But remember, look big. The triangle is much, much bigger than you're probably thinking it will be. So that is the nighttime sky as during this week. So please get out there and look at it. If it's a clear night, get practiced on finding these constellations in the real sky. I hope our next transmission with each other is actually in person to view the fall sky, but otherwise I'll be back in a few weeks with a video of the fall sky. Enjoy your year.